So what's also interesting about Mr. Masuda is he was definitely a big pro wrestling fan, in the 80s. And uh, he really kind of brought that appreciation of the sport to his games. And he also, uh, I found this like really interesting. He launched the career of Suda 51. He gave him his first break in video games at age 24. So, he's this.
Not on this game though.
No, no,
Okay.
no. It was later, but I mean, I guess it's a pretty famous story that Suda wrote some of the scenarios for like Fire Pro games, including one where a wrestler commits suicide at the end, um,
Mm.
which is a very Suda thing.
Uh-huh.
Um,
Hmm.
and yeah, so this game, uh, it's pretty simple, but I think it still holds up really well. Um, it's I would say it's like right up there with golf as like the top tier of sports games for the like NES Black Box series. You have you can grapple, you can run on the ropes, throw on the ropes, punch, kick. It really kind of created the move set, the like flow of the game, the template, I guess, for like what we're going to see a lot of in 8 and 16-bit wrestling games. It kind of created the formula that wouldn't really change too much until I'd say um, the Aki games later on.
Cool. Yeah, I didn't really play this too much as a kid. I was aware of it. Obviously, I think most people were, but I didn't play it a ton. And going back to it now, like the thing to me, what I liked about it was the characters, obviously,
Mm-hmm.
and stuff like that. So, like there's a lot of character to the game, and the characters are great. But as far as the actual gameplay and stuff goes, it was just like compared to some of the other options. That we were, or some of the other games we're looking at here, like it wasn't super fun to me, but I think part of it is like I said, I didn't play it much when I was younger, so there's no nostalgia or even just familiarity to it for me. So
Mm.
yeah.
Yeah, and I think like even if you didn't play this game, um, back in the day, I think most people are probably familiar with one of the another part of its legacy, which is the victory quote. When you win a match, it says, "A winner is you," which has been memed and parodied and everything throughout the years. But I think this was just as important to like developing a template and a formula for wrestling games as like golf was. I feel like some of the early Nintendo sports games were sort of like either like too simplistic or just like evolutionary dead ends. But I feel like pro wrestling and golf kind of they may not have been like the first in their genre, but they kind of set the tone for what would come after. So and I don't know, like I still think pro wrestling is a super fun game to play now, and like you said, it has great characters. Starman, King Slender,
The
just
Amazon.
the Amazon. Yeah, it's super fun. And it's one that Nintendo doesn't really revisit or call attention to. Um which I'm not really sure, why that is. I don't believe it ever had a virtual console release. Uh, and that's kind of a bummer. But fortunately, you can still pick up a cartridge of it for like less than $10 these days. So, yeah, I think it's a super important part of Nintendo history, of video game history, and definitely wrestling history. So, next game is one I haven't played, but you seem to really enjoy.
Yes. So this is Tecmo World Wrestling, and this one's a little bit later than Pro Wrestling. I don't know, like Pro Wrestling is probably like an 86 game or something like that, being a black box game, right? So
Yeah, 84, 85.
okay. So yeah, it would have been really early. But Tecmo World Wrestling is from 1990. So, definitely later on. And, in some ways it definitely benefits from that. It looks like a later period, wrestling game or whatever. But or just later period game, I guess, on NES. It's very colorful. Although I don't know, like I'm looking at character portraits from the game right now, and in some ways they kind of look better in Pro Wrestling than they do in this game. But just overall, this game is like way more vibrant. There's like flashing letters and stuff on the screen. Like on the versus screen, you see the word versus like scrolling by in the bottom and the top, and made up in stars, and it just has like more kind of going on. I guess you'd say it's a little more dynamic. And then in the game too, the game moves quicker than Pro Wrestling, and like when characters are wrestling each other, like for instance when they get thrown into the ropes, like the ropes really, you see them like really bend and stuff. There's a life bar, which I like personally. That's one of the takeaways from playing all these wrestling games over the last couple of weeks that I have is like I like a life bar in my wrestling game.
Yeah.
So there's life bars and stuff like that. Yeah, but like visually, it's really not that impressive, especially for like a late period NES game or later period NES game. Like in some ways it's not. I guess like the character designs and like some of the backgrounds and stuff are not that impressive, but the animation is pretty good. And then at the bottom of the screen there is like this announcer guy who is like announcing the entire match as you go. So it's all text obviously, but it's like really quick. It goes really quickly, and so like when there's a drop kick, there's like, at the bottom, he's like, oh, another kick, drop kick, like, it's like happening really quickly, like as you're playing. So I was really impressed that this NES wrestling game was like able to keep up with like the action on screen and kind of like have this, which is like that's a very important part of pro wrestling, right? It's like the commentary is a huge part of it.
Yeah.
So I thought that was great that like an NES game from 1990 is including that and kind of reproducing that in a way that like really works, I think. Now, granted, when you're playing the game, it's hard to like be reading that commentary at the bottom of the screen.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. I thought it was still a really nice touch. And if somebody else is in the room with you, watching, or if there's like, 3 people and 2 people are playing, then, another person can be looking at that commentary. So I think it's really cool. And it also has like these great, like special move animation screens. So like, for instance, I was playing as a character who did basically the Cesaro swing as like his special move. And then sometimes like early in the match, like if I would do my Cesaro swing move, it would just be like in the ring and there wouldn't be any special like screen. But then later in the match, when it's becoming more like your finisher, in terms of like it might actually end the match, it goes to this like kind of narrow, almost like a 16:9 kind of screen, and it shows like an up close character animation of your character doing this. So it's pretty cool. I'm into it. I like Tecmo World Wrestling. I thought it was pretty fun. Of all the NES wrestling games that we played for this episode, anyways, I think that's the one that I would think was the most fun and that I'd most want to go back to.
Nice. Yeah, it almost sounds like again, I haven't played this game, but it almost sounds like Tecmo was going for that like cinematic presentation that they would, kind of do with like Ninja Gaiden.
Yeah, actually, as I was describing that special move thing, I was thinking like, oh, it's 16:9, almost like those Ninja Gaiden like cutscenes.
Yeah,
kind of thing. Yeah,
that's interesting. I wonder if there's any connection or like crossover between staff or a company protocol or anything like that.
Yeah, yeah, there could be, although like, man, I mean, Ninja Gaiden, I guess it's not like the best looking game or whatever in some ways, but like overall, I would say like the production values and just like the uh, the overall quality of the visuals and stuff, and Ninja Gaiden is like way more impressive
Yeah.
than this for sure. Like this was probably put together pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But it's there's some shared DNA there, as they say, I guess, maybe potentially.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I want to grab a copy of this game at some point. It does sound like something I would like to check out.
Mhm.
So I do have an update, a correction already.
Mm.
I've already messed something up on this episode. So about pro wrestling. It was actually originally released on the Famicom Disk System in 1986.
Wow. Okay.
It didn't come to the United States until 87. And it was actually, despite being a black box game, it was actually the third wrestling game on the NES.
Oh, wow.
After Muscle and Tag Team Wrestling, which are games we did not play for this
No, I
episode.
didn't. We'll have to check those out.
Yeah. I don't think either of them are good,
Okay.
if I remember correctly, but yeah.
You would be curious to see though, like, because you gave a lot of credit to pro wrestling there for establishing the genre on the NES. So I'd be curious to see like if those games do a lot of the things that pro wrestling does, like, or if they don't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if pro wrestling really deserves all that credit for kind of like figuring out how to do a wrestling game on NES, or if the other guys had basically figured it out but just didn't execute it very well, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a good point.
That actually reminds me real quick, unless you're still working on the correction there.
No, it's corrected.
Okay. Tecmo World Wrestling, one thing I forgot to mention. Before a match, you have the option to do muscle training, which is pretty funny. So like this like female, I don't know, commentator or personality or whatever is like, hey, do you want to do muscle training before the match? And you can choose to do squats, pull-ups, or I don't know, one other thing, maybe bench presses or something, but or curl, I don't know. But anyway, you have the option to do one of three different muscle training activities, and then that kind of like beefs you up before you go into the match too. So like boost your stats a little bit or something. So that's another little quirk of the game that I think makes it that much more memorable.
Huh, that's cool.
Yeah.
All right. So I guess, we are on the road to WrestleMania. So we would be remiss not to talk about WWF WrestleMania for the NES. This was an LJN joint, which we will see them popping up more and more throughout here. And it's a game, this is definitely a game I played as a kid, and definitely even as a kid recognized it wasn't very good.
The best thing about this game is the title screen with like scrolling, like the Mania logo like flashes through all the colors of the rainbow,
and it's Hogan ripping his shirt, right?
Well, like that's like the splash screen, and then the title screen has like just the word WrestleMania, but then like it's like the colors are flashing through, and then underneath it says bigger, better, badder, which maybe was like a early version of Then, Now, Forever, which is always goosebumps every time I watch a wrestling program.
For sure.
I always love that. So yeah. Anyway.
Okay.
It's yeah, that's probably the highlight of the game, though. I feel like.
Yeah.
A bit like Hogan music, I guess, maybe too.
I like. I'm trying to remember about this game. I didn't go back and replay it for this episode. But do characters' music play throughout the match?
I don't think so.
Okay. I thought I remembered that, but I do remember Bam Bam Bigelow is a selectable character in the game, correct?
Yeah. Yes, I think
and
so.
He could cartwheel around the ring, and it was very silly looking.
Yep, Bam Bam Bigelow is in there. Honky Tonk Man, Ted DiBiase, Macho Man. Although, like, oh man, this game, I don't know. Like when you're on the character select screen to choose your
Mhm.
characters, including Hulk Hogan, you can choose among the other names. The character portraits are in black and white, which is like, wow, okay, that's an interesting choice for an NES game. Like, why are
Hmm.
they in black and white?
It's really artistic.
And yeah, no, it doesn't. It's not a great looking game. I feel like it
Yeah.
is definitely not a great
Yeah.
looking game.
Um,
Um,
Also, like I think as far as this game's legacy goes, this was the game that was like hacked for the movie The Wrestler. Have you seen that movie?
I have seen the movie, but I don't remember that.
Because uh yeah, there's the part where like Mickey Rourke is talking to that like neighborhood kid and he's like, "Hey, do you want to see the wrestling game that I was in?" And it was like a hacked version of this, if I remember correctly,
Oh, okay, that's
to like
cool.
include his character. Yeah.
It could be.
Um, yeah.
Yeah, because this game is it's like pretty bare bones looking.
Hmm.
The ring looks kind of cool, and it does a thing that's different than like a lot of the other wrestling games, where like the ring is like pushed up closer to the screen, so you actually only see 3 sets of ropes. Like the closest set of ropes is like, I guess off screen. Like you get what I mean.
Hmm.
But then there's like no background. It's just like a plain black background. So you don't see any like anything outside the ring. You don't see any audience there or anything like that. So it's like, yeah. And then, like I said, like the character portraits are like above you too, like during the match with the life bar, there's an energy bar. So I do like that. But then like they're in black and white while you're wrestling. It's just, I don't know. It's a very plain looking game. So
Yeah. Yeah. Um, all right. So there's a bunch of other NES wrestling games that we did not play for this episode. Um, like Steel Cage Challenge, King of the Ring. Um, there's a whole bunch. Maybe we'll talk about those on other episodes or at some other point. But let's go ahead and jump to the Game Boy. Um, because this actually was one of on the Game Boy. This was one of the, I guess, pleasant surprises of planning for this episode, and that is HAL Wrestling. So this is a wrestling game from HAL. Creators of Kirby and Smash Brothers and all of that. And it's not a great looking game. You have like very simple, very squat uh, sprites, and obviously, it's very limited by the Game Boy hardware. But I found the game to be like pretty fun, and it's like really ridiculous. There's a lot of like ridiculous playable characters. It kind of reminds me a bit of like the character selection in pro wrestling. Um,
yeah,
but like I also think the game, despite its like visual simplicity, I think it's like pretty mechanically sound. Like I think it plays as good as a lot of the NES wrestling games, which is an accomplishment on the Game Boy. So yeah, I had a lot of fun with this one.
okay. Yeah, I thought it was okay. I didn't really grab me too much. I'd like to play a Super Cyber. I don't know if you
Yes.
saw him, Super Cyber. It's pretty cool. Um, or maybe Death Monster Canada. He's pretty also, or no, Death Monster from Canada, I guess. But it just looks like Death Monster Canada, which would have been a better character. But yeah, it was all right. I think yeah, I'm not as into the NES era of wrestling games, I think, as you are maybe.
Yeah.
But it's cool.
Cool. Um, then another one I didn't get to, but I was super interested in, and this is like jumping way ahead, you know, after HAL Wrestling, but one that interests me because I was listening to the Shantae episode of Retronauts with Shantae um, creator. Matt
Matt
Bozon.
Bozon. Mm-hmm.
Matt Bozon, yeah. And he was talking about like, just all the games that Way Forward has done. Like there's so many that they worked on, and like they worked on so many licensed games. And he mentioned this next game, WCW Mayhem. And I wanted to play it in time for the episode. I did not get to it, but it is a Game Boy Color game, and it looks like you played it.
Yeah, I played it a little bit. It's I'm not a big WCW guy. I was not a big WCW guy at the time.
Oh man.
But there were some of my, early 90s, late 80s, early 90s like WWF favorites in there, like Ric Flair and Hollywood Hogan and stuff like that. So I just played one match, Ric Flair versus Buff Bagwell. And it was cool. It had pretty fluid animation. The actual like the characters themselves didn't look too great. They looked kind of like big and blocky, and I don't know, hard to explain, but they didn't look great. But it definitely captured the tone of WCW at the time. I felt like the colors were a little garish, I think, and
some bad fonts.
Yes. Oh yeah, absolutely. And like you'd be like in the middle of a match and like a chair would just come flying into the ring, like I don't know where from or why, but and then the game had a little more of an emphasis on I guess the crowd doesn't do anything, but the crowd is there, and I feel like the arena and the entire like kind of room is more emphasized in this game versus some of the other wrestling games. So, like for instance, if you take the fight outside of the ring, which is common in pro wrestling and in pro wrestling video games, you can kind of like extend. You can kind of extend over to the left, like pretty far out, like almost into like this big cement like. It's like the floor, but like there's not any chairs or any audience out there. Like there probably would be, but it's like, I don't know. It's just giving more emphasis to the overall, like the larger room and kind of getting outside of the ring. And like I said, chairs flying in and that kind of thing. So, it was cool. It was cool. It was an 8-bit game on, Game Boy in probably like the late 90s or something. So,
probably early 2000s.
Yeah, it might even have been like 2000 or something. So it was it's a little bit of a thing where like you go back and look at this game, and in some ways it's pretty impressive, and then in some ways it's like, oh my god, this is an 8-bit game in 2000. You know what I mean? Like it's I would say it's a foot in both worlds. In some ways it looks good and plays well and is pretty fluid and stuff, and then in other ways it's kind of like probably it's time to move past this era of gaming. You know what I mean? So. But I think if you like WCW, if you're into that stuff, then there's probably pretty pleasant, I think, for a lot of people.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So yeah, let's move past the 8-bit era. I mean, still there's like so many wrestling games we didn't even talk about here. There's like the WWF Superstars games on Game Boy. Just a ton of stuff. There's another Way Forward developed game, I think, for the Game Boy Color, Betrayal, which I didn't play, but that seems like it could be interesting.
That's another World Championship Wrestling game, right?
No, it's a WWF.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, because wasn't Betrayal a pay-per-view during the Attitude Era?
I was checked out and not paying attention era for me, so I'm not sure. But okay,
it's just an aside. Like it's easy to like talk smack on like late 90s, early 2000s WCW. A lot of it is deserved. They have the worst like fonts. Like everything is just so garish. But I still very much prefer and at the time as well, like I preferred WCW over the Attitude Era, which lost me pretty quick.
Yeah, for me, wrestling lost me at that time. So when I'm comparing WCW and WWF, it's like earlier than that era, more like mid 90s or even early 90s, like when WCW first started showing up on TNT and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And that's I'm sure I like that better than well, whatever. We don't have to get into it.
No.
I'm not a lot of people love the Attitude Era stuff and all that, kind of thing. But for me, yeah, I was always just more of a WWF guy. But I was also like, how old would I have been? Like 10 at the time, I didn't. It was like it was like Super Nintendo. It was like yeah, like Super Nintendo and Genesis. You know what I mean? Like I got to choose one. I can't like both. You know what I mean? That was my attitude at the time. So not that I watched WCW a little bit, but yeah, I was always more of a WWF guy.
Yeah. I went back and forth quite a bit. But yeah. Anyways, let's get into the 16-bit era. Speaking of SNES versus Genesis.
We don't have any Genesis games. We should have. I was thinking about that as you started introducing the episode. Like,
yeah,
really, we could have talked about some Genesis gems too. But
yeah, I mean, a lot of these actually were on both platforms. So yeah, let's. I'm gonna do this kind of like out of order. Even though like again we're not going like sequentially through these games, but I feel like a good starting point would be LJN's Super WrestleMania. This game has a very special place in my heart because it was the first issue of my Nintendo Power subscription, and I remember this really well for some reason. Like I had been reading Nintendo Power, like, from friends' copies and everything like that. I had been reading Nintendo Power like all through like the NES era. But like the first issue of my own subscription was the Super NES Super WrestleMania issue, and I believe the cover has Hulk Hogan doing a leg drop while holding a Photoshop SNES controller in his hand. Pretty cool stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like I remember just like kind of poring over like the feature on this game and like thinking it like looks so amazing and the wrestlers look so real like compared to NES wrestling games. And then when I finally played it, I rented it and I enjoyed it a lot. But like going back and playing it now, it's pretty simple. It hasn't like aged super well, but like it does kind of follow that same like pro wrestling gameplay formula. I think it's a huge upgrade from like the NES WrestleMania game from LJN.
Yeah, that game's awful. I mean, this is so much better.
Yeah,
I like this game.
Yeah, like it. I think it's just a little limited in like modes and just like what you can kind of do in the game and roster. But I think it's a pretty fun game. It's probably the best LJN wrestling game to this point.
I think it's like you said, a huge improvement. I mean, it's way more character. It looks great. The characters, like I prefer the like more zoomed in, like close up, like larger characters on the screen type thing. All that stuff is an improvement to me. I wish the roster was bigger, I think, but like I did you try the Survivor Series mode? Did you try that? Like, that's pretty cool.
No, I don't remember. What does that
I mean, just you choose, like I think there's only 8, there's either 8 or 10 characters in the game. I think there might only be 8. But basically like you choose 4 characters that you want to be on your Survivor Series team. And then I think by default every other character in the game ends up on the opposite Survivor Series team.
Okay.
Basically there might be more than 8, but it felt like there's probably only like 8 characters. But yeah, I mean, it's just like a 4-man tag kind of match, with because Survivor Series rules, Survivor Series match. So, but it's just, it's a little something extra there, especially if you're playing single player, like without, a buddy to play with, like to have that mode gives it, makes it a little more interesting.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
It's cool.
But yeah, like they have the character introductions there in the ring, and Undertaker hailing from Death Valley and all that stuff. It's cool. And then
Yeah.
after the match, you get the screen kind of announcing who won and stuff. I don't know.
Howard Finkel.
Yeah. Yeah, the
Yeah.
Fink, yeah. So I mean it's I don't know, it's a simple game, that's for sure. But yeah, I think it's pretty fun. And for me, like I said, I really can't go back to the NES era of wrestling games too much. I don't think they're very fun, but SNES, this era is way better. And this game is like, it's not amazing, but even this is just like, to me, so much more playable than the earlier stuff. So this is like kind of the first one for me that I'm like, yeah, this, I could play this now, and crack it out maybe Friday night of WrestleMania weekend, and have some fun with it. So I like it.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of nice touches in this game. The character portraits look really good.
Mm-hmm. They
The
have that like digitized look.
Yeah.
So
the wrestlers look good. They like actually really look like who they are. I believe at the commentary table, I think you have Bobby Heenan and maybe Vince McMahon.
That's what it looks like. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's definitely Bobby Heenan. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, probably Vince.
So yeah, that's a pretty good I don't know. Yeah, like they definitely seem to like try with this game, and it feels like a super upgrade to the game. And yeah, it kind of earned that Nintendo Power cover. Which it may have been the first wrestling game to ever get on the cover of Nintendo Power. I don't know. I can't think of anything before.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, the ropes bend well too. It has life bars, and the ropes bend well. So
yeah, that's kind of your jam.
That's my thing. Yeah, so I'm into this one too. Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about a non WWF wrestling game for Super Nintendo, and this is another one. It's a game I've always wanted to play. I wanted to get to it for this episode, but I wasn't able to. I really wanted to buy a cart of this game, just because I love 16-bit era Capcom, and I just wanted a cart in my collection, and I could not track a copy down. Like none of my local game stores had one, so so yeah, I didn't end up actually playing it for this episode, but Saturday Night Slam Masters, you played it?
Yes, it rules. So are you saying you haven't played it in the past either? Or
I've never played it.
Oh man, it is cool. Yes, I'm into Saturday Night Slam Masters. Basically, like I played, as most of us did, I played a bunch of Capcom fighting games in my younger years, and there is a lot of that kind of thing in this game. So like from the character select screen, looks really, I mean, it's very similar format to Street Fighter 2. When you start a match, you have like the kind of trash talk stuff from the characters, like sort of how you get at the end of Street Fighter 2. And then like in the actual wrestling game, it plays much more, it feels much more like a fighting game, I feel like, than any of the previous wrestling games do. The introductions are really cool too. You got like neon lights flying all over the place and stuff, like, so but yeah, like in the ring, it plays way more like a fighting game. And but I love that, you know what I mean? It's like, it's a little different, it's more arcadey, it's definitely, like I said, like more of that fighting game thing. Like for instance, this game has a life bar, which you're going to want in a wrestling game, as I've already stated. But then like once the life bar is down, like you basically can pin the person and you're good. So it's almost like a round like of Street Fighter or something, in the sense that it's all about just like getting that life bar down to nothing, and then once you've done that, you've basically won. I mean, you still have to pin them, but you're gonna get the pin in my experience. So because some of the other wrestling games, you have the life bar, but like you can still end up winning a match after your life bar is gone, or you might continue the match for like another 2 minutes, like with both characters, like basically having no life bar left. But not really the way it goes here in Saturday Night Slam Masters. So it's also kind of like basically a 2-button game, which works for me. I like that. So yeah, I don't know. This one's really fun, and it's in terms of if you're gonna do like a Friday night old wrestling games kind of thing, this is I guess you really want to play it on a Saturday night, but
Sure, yeah.
but it's like super easy to just like pick up and play and have a ton of fun with. So yeah, I love this one. This one is great. And then my last note here I have in our notes is that I was doing really well until, guess what? Mike Hagar showed up and
Oh man, the
cleaned my
mayor.
clock. Yeah, he took care of business. But yeah, this one is a high, one of my favorites that we played for the show.
Cool. Yeah, it's definitely on my list of games I want to grab at some point. It's a lot like a lot of SNES Capcom games. It is a little bit pricey these days, but I still would like to have it in the collection.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right, so we got just 2 more games here to talk about, and then maybe we'll do some WrestleMania predictions.
Oh, sure.
I don't know.
Yeah, let's do
it. So, all right. So the next game I want to talk about is Super Fire Pro Wrestling. It is not the only Fire Pro game on the SNES, but it is the one that I have. So that's why I put it in here. This is the first SNES Fire Pro game, or I guess I should say Super Famicom Fire Pro game, because these games never came out here in the West. But as I mentioned earlier in the episode, this series was created by Masato Masuda, the creator of Pro Wrestling, and the series actually started on the PC Engine in Japan. And I think the feel of this game is very, very much like in isometric pro wrestling. Like the movement and the way attacks work, and just like the general feel definitely brings to mind pro wrestling. You can see that that DNA there. It's pretty simple to pick up and play. You can run, you can punch, kick, you can do like strong attacks. There are some timing based grapples. But I think there is a layer of depth that I have never really been able to tap into in the Fire Pro series. I've given this series a try on Game Boy Advance and obviously this SNES game. And there is just this like, I can do a lot of the superficial stuff, the stuff you would do in like, previous wrestling games. But then like, I'm playing against the computer, and the computer is just doing like, special moves and moonsaults and like just all this like crazy stuff that like I've never quite been able to tap into. But there's so many like, for a Super Nintendo wrestling game, there's so many just like little details that I really appreciate about this game. Like there is blood. You can get hit so hard or hit in a specific way that your character starts bleeding. It's possible to knock out the ref, which is pretty cool, pretty interesting. And there's a lot of just like interesting grapple and submission moves that you can do if you have the know-how. But I think what kind of like holds me back from really fully appreciating the Fire Pro series in general, but specifically this game, is I think it's really hard. The battles against the computer, like the computer is just really good. And like, the kind of strategy that I'd use in, older previous wrestling games just didn't really work here. And like, I just would get destroyed by the computer in this game. And I think I've mentioned this on the podcast before. I just don't love isometric perspective games. It's always like, it's one of those things like, kind of like tank controls where, some people just can't like wrap their head around it. And that's kind of how I feel about like any isometric video game, whether it's like the Immortal or Landstalker or Fire Pro. Like it just never feels comfortable to me. And so that's why like I feel like I can really appreciate this game and the Fire Pro series, but like I really struggle playing it.
Yeah, I didn't have much luck with it either. And I think like I can definitely see some similarities to pro wrestling. And like for instance, this game seems to be, and pro wrestling too, I feel like you need to be in very close quarters to like your opponent. Like, you have to be like almost like right up next to them before you can like land a punch or a kick, whereas in like some of these other games you can be further apart. And so you feel like, I don't know, I feel like I get up close to the, computer, to the AI character. And like, I have, but to get close enough to be able to actually like attack that character, I have to be so close that they're already like they're just like a little bit faster than me. You know what I mean? And I feel like because like I have to get so close up there, it makes it tougher. Obviously, there's more emphasis on the grappling thing in this game too, which I'm sure once you get better at that, then it probably is gonna feel better and stuff. But yeah, and it's like the same kind of stilted like punch like in like kick thing, like I don't know. Some of the other like 16-bit wrestling games, especially the WWF ones, which is where my interests kind of lay, especially at that time too, is like each character I feel like kind of has like the characteristics of the famous wrestler they're based on and stuff, and they kind of move that way and stuff. Whereas I just feel like the animation, like the way the characters move and stuff in this Fire Pro game anyway, is not as, I don't know. It's just, yeah, I don't know. It didn't work for me quite as well. I did like playing as Astro Boy, who is basically the Japanese equivalent of the Ultimate Warrior. And that's the thing about the character select in this game too.
Oh
is like,
my God.
Well, like half of the characters are, I'm assuming some of them are based on like Japanese wrestlers and, wrestlers I'm not familiar with, but then like half of them are based on, very clearly are just like the WWF, wrestler. There's like a Hulk Hogan and there's an Ultimate Warrior and stuff like that. So, but I don't know. I don't think I'll play this game too much more ever, but I am looking forward to Fire Pro coming out on PS4 and maybe trying the new one.
Yeah. I backed it in Steam Early Access, so I have it on PC.
Okay.
The new one, and it's again like the game's crazy. Like there's so many options, so many like it's like super fully featured even in its like beta stage. And I've messed around with it a little bit, but I haven't quite gotten a great feel for it, but it's super impressive, and it was only like $20 to back it. So
would you say you've had more success or more fun playing 2K then than Fire Pro, just because it's like more, or you're not too into 2K either?
I'm not too into 2K.
Okay. Because you do have that, right?
Yeah, I have 16, 17, and 18.
Oh, okay. You've got it. Yeah.
2 of them are because they were on Xbox Game Pass, and then I bought 18 this year.
Okay.
On Xbox One, and I'm not really feeling it.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Yeah.
It's a kind of a sad time for wrestling games.
Well, I think that's where some of my interest in Fire Pro on PS4 comes in. It's just like, oh, well, for so long, it's just basically just been the 2K games. And if you don't like those, then what are you going to do? So, but yeah.
I think I'd like to learn Fire Pro.
Okay.
I feel like it's like I know it's good. I just have to like learn it,
Hmm.
basically.
Hmm. Okay.
So okay, so now I want to talk about what this is probably not a popular opinion, but as far as 16-bit and I guess 32-bit wrestling, no, not 32-bit, but as far as 16-bit wrestling games go, this one's probably my favorite, the last one we're going to talk about here, and it's not really even a wrestling game, but I love it dearly, and that is WrestleMania, the arcade game. This was obviously a game just called WrestleMania. In the arcades, it was by Midway, and it kind of spun out of the success of both Mortal Kombat and NBA Jam, where Midway kind of tried to, put their sort of arcade spin on a lot of different kinds of games. And, you got stuff like NFL Blitz out of this. But yeah, WrestleMania, the arcade game. I think this game is just ridiculous, stupid fun. It's just absolutely absurd and over the top. There's like, you'll be, attacking with like Shawn Michaels and like you'll be like doing punches and it will like turn into a combo and like all of a sudden he'll just like have a baseball bat and start like wailing on the guy and like Doink the Clown has like an electric buzzer that like you can use and it's all just like it's so over the top and it's super super fast, which is like a huge change from where wrestling games were kind of at this point. They were going for the trying to kind of simulate like what was actually on TV, with like the more methodical approach and like the build up and all of that. But this game is just like matches are over in like 30 seconds and it is just like chaos. But I think it plays really well. It's like super responsive. And yeah, I mean, it's definitely, again, like it feels way more like a fighting game, but like it's even like faster than a lot of fighting games from the era. Like actually the speed I'd say is probably closer to something like NBA Jam.
Mm-hmm.
Than anything else, but it's a super super unique game, and it's one that like I actually got this game when it came out on the SNES, so I've played it a ton through the years, and yeah, I really really like it. What are your thoughts on it?
I love this game. I think it's super fun. I can see where some wrestling fans may not be into it because it's not really much of a wrestling game, as you argued already. But it's just so colorful and goofy and fun, and it's like people love NBA Jam even though it's not really much of a basketball game. It's a very similar type thing. I love seeing like Doink's giant like foot, like when he does a big kick, it turns into this big clown foot or the big like boxing glove type thing. And yeah, it's awesome. I love hearing Vince McMahon shout, "Pin him," and "You've got to give credit to the Undertaker," and all that stuff. It's just like it's just fun.
It's a total debacle.
Yeah, and I also thought too, like I brought this up in regards to Super WrestleMania also, but like definitely here I feel like using the digitized like look and stuff, I think it actually looks really good. I mean, it's a 16-bit version of that kind of technology or whatever, but I think it looks really good. And I think there's a lot of accuracy in the movement and the look of the character. So I was playing as Bret the Hitman Hart the other day, and I just felt like the way he was moving across the ring and stuff, like, and the way he was doing his like kicks and stuff, it was like, it looked like Bret the Hitman Hart. So that came across in like the actual animation and movement of the character. So I thought that was a nice touch too. But yeah, it was just a ton of character, and it's really funny. And again, I think similar to Saturday Night Slam Masters, if you're just gonna have some buddies over or just want to hang out and play like a wrestling game for a little bit without like spending the time like learning a game, this is a great option. So I'm a big fan. I played the PlayStation 1 version of this last year, early in the day on WrestleMania Day. So, but it was cool to come back and play the SNES version for this show.
Yeah, I have copies of both. I have the PS1 game and the SNES game, and like the PS1 version definitely looks better. Like everything's just clearer, and like the digitized, stuff just works better at like a higher resolution. And it actually has more characters in the roster. But that said, I actually don't like super love playing the PlayStation version, like playing it single player, because it's there's less difficulty settings, and I really like the Super Nintendo version because there's like this very easy difficulty setting that when I play on that, like I can just run through like I can play through a full game in like 10 or 15 minutes. And I like being able to do that, like in the same way I like to, just sit down and play through, a whole game of Street Fighter or something. And it's like the PS1 version has less difficulty settings. So like even like the easy setting I find pretty challenging. But yeah, like the SNES one is like more accessible, I'd say.
It'd be interesting to look at the differences between the Genesis and Super Nintendo one, actually, because now that I am saying this, that I played the PlayStation one last year, I think it was the Genesis one that I played. And yeah, I think it definitely looks a little different and plays maybe a little differently. I don't think it has the difficulty mode that you were talking about, that the PlayStation one does. So yeah, interesting.
I've never played it on Genesis.
Go back and look at that.
Yeah, well, I guess I should just buy every copy of this game available.
You should. You should buy the arcade machine also.
Ooh, that would be great.
I wonder what kind of board it runs on. Like if it's anyway.
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't know. Cool. So yeah, obviously there are so many wrestling games we did not cover for this episode. If you have suggestions, if you're listening and you like, there's some games you think we should play, we should cover, talk about, or if you just have like some great wrestling game memories, feel free to share them with us. Drop us a line, Nintendo Fun Club Podcast at gmail.com, or send us a tweet or respond in the comments, whatever. But yeah, I guess before we wrap up, I want to do WrestleMania predictions. Like what we think is going to happen at WrestleMania 34. So, I'm just going to go through the matches, pretty quickly here. There's going to be a men's, battle royal, the Andre the Giant Memorial. Do you have any thoughts or predictions on that?
I don't. I'm struggling to remember who even all is involved in it. I know Woken Matt Hardy is involved. I'd be pulling for him potentially. I think in a lot of times in years past, they used the Andre the Giant Memorial to put over like a younger guy, like a newer guy, kind of like try to build some excitement around somebody like that. Like they did with Baron Corbin.
Not too much excitement can be built there.
Depends on who you're talking to, but yeah. So anyway, who knows? I'm trying to remember who else won. I think maybe did Rusev win one year? That is exciting, but yeah, I don't know. What about you? Do you have a?
No, not really for the men's one. I maybe Matt Hardy, but I've also heard that Jeff Hardy might be coming back soon. His injuries he might be getting cleared.
Yeah, well, if he can keep himself out of trouble, it would make sense for him to be back, but we'll see.
That's true, yeah.
I don't think he'll be back tagging with Matt Hardy. right away anyway. So
Yeah, we'll see.
there's a little bit of a divide, I think, right now between the Woken one and his brother Jeff. So
did you see the on the WWE shop the mower of lawn shirt?
I did not. I
Oh
did not.
man,
I like the idea.
it
I
is
like the
very
idea.
good.
Matt Hardy last week in his promo on Raw, when he was talking about Bray Wyatt and how he's been deleted and all that, he's like, he put the phrase "eater of souls" into a Woken Matt Hardyism, and it was so funny. Like, I can't remember exactly what he said, but it was really good. So yeah, big Matt Hardy fan over here.
Yeah.
I like him.
Yeah, that's been fun.
Mhm.
Well, yeah, I'm looking at this mower of lawn shirt right now, and I kind of need it. Kind of need that and the Velveteen Dream shirt.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Here's a prediction. I'd like to see Senor Benjamin get involved in the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royale in some way. So I don't think it's going to happen, but that'd be fun.
That would be amazing.
Yeah.
You just ran out. Cool. I think what's more interesting is the WrestleMania Women's Battle Royale. And for this one, I think, and I kind of hope, it's going to come down to Sasha Banks and Bayley. That I guess it's officially a feud at this point. Spoilers if you haven't watched the last episode of Raw, but I'd say they're feuding.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, absolutely. That would be cool. I also think, like, we probably don't know the full roster for this.
No, not even close.
So that's kind of fun too, because I think it's likely we'll see some NXT women superstars in this match, even if they're not ready to get called up to the main roster yet. I think, you know, they'll fill it out with some NXT superstars, and
Kairi Sane,
maybe, or like Ember Moon or somebody would be cool. And then it's also a question of, you know, are there going to be any returning superstars that might show up just to put in a little time in this battle royale too? So, like, you know, the Bellas potentially, or like, you know, people like that. So that could be also fun. So
yeah. No, I'm not super excited about the men's battle royale. I mean, again, like, there could be, like, the NXT angle makes it interesting, but as far as like the announced superstars so far for the men's, I'm not like really interested. I do like the idea of like the women's battle royale, you know, coming down to Bayley and Banks, because, you know, that's pretty fitting, because this feud kind of started at the Royal Rumble, where like the first signs of betrayal. So that'll be interesting. But yeah, so other matches in like the, I guess, WrestleMania proper. Let's see. Cedric Alexander versus Mustafa Ali, the winners of the cruiserweight tournament on 205 Live. You know, I've said this to you a few times in text. I feel like this could be like the secret best match of WrestleMania. Both of these guys are ridiculously talented, and they both put on a heck of a show. So I'm really, really excited for this. I feel like this one's going to go to Cedric Alexander. I feel like there's been a lot of buildup to him, you know, around him, and I think it's totally deserved. But Mustafa Ali is also amazing.
I mean, regardless of who wins, it's just, you know, like, it's a huge thing for both of them, I think, you know, to have a match on the Mania card. And, you know, these are the only 205 guys, unless some of them make it into the Battle Royale, that are even have a match on the show, you know. So I feel like Cedric's probably going to get the nod here, although, you know, I have to root for Mustafa Ali a little bit, as he's a bit of a hometown boy.
Yeah,
he's from Chicago. And I took a picture with my 8-year-old son a couple weeks ago at our house show here, and nice. He was one of the only guys that came over and talked to fans that were lined up outside, because it was really cold out. I mean, not really cold, but like, you know, 40 degrees or something. So he was super nice, and I think is like a really cool guy. So I'd be really happy to see either one of them, actually. But
Yeah, I'm so excited for that match.
Yeah.
Um, let's see. I'm just gonna go through the card in order on Wikipedia at
Okay.
this point. I was trying to like what order I thought the matches were going to happen at the event, but I don't even know because there's like so many like big matches here.
Yeah, I
Um,
hope that 205 match doesn't get pushed to the pre-show. I was thinking as I
oh,
said that, which it very well could, because I
that
don't know
would be a
which of these are going to
bummer.
be pre-show matches. But
Yeah,
put that
that's
battle
true.
royale that Andre the Giant won on
Yep.
the show, and I don't know.
Yeah, the two
Yeah,
battle royals should be pre-show. Everything else, I feel like
mm,
deserves.
I don't know about the women's one though. Maybe I don't think they should both be pre-show. I'd say put
Really?
the men's on pre-show and the women's. Well, it's just gonna. I mean, it's kind of. I don't know, like two battle royales back to back on the pre-show. Like I don't know,
That
mix it up,
does
man.
sound good.
Nah, mix it up.
I
Okay, but anyway,
loved I loved it at WrestleMania getting those two, but yeah, maybe put like a match between them or something, a
yeah.
couple matches between them.
It's probably I'm sure it's a 2 hour pre-show and a 4 hour main show. So
Yeah,
yeah,
there's a lot happening at
yeah,
this
yeah,
Mania.
yeah, yeah.
So, all right, Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns.
Big time Roman Reigns. I just hope the match is longer than 2 minutes. Brock showed up and did some stuff Monday night, so that gave me hope that perhaps he'll actually wrestle this match. But I've been a little nervous with him having one foot out the door to UFC that it's going to be almost a non-match, and I think that's ridiculous considering they've been building it for years at this point. Like, it's going to be disappointing to have it be sort of a nothing match, especially since it's obviously going to be crowning our new Universal Champion. Like, let's have it be a real match, So I don't think there's any doubt about who's going to win it, but it's a question of like, how is the match going to go?
Yeah. Do you think, if I'd also like to see Reigns take it. Just because he'd be a Universal Champion who would actually be there, be present, and defending, and which we don't really get with Brock Lesnar. And do you think if Reigns wins, do you think maybe Brock Lesnar will be kind of out the door?
Oh yeah, I think he's done.
Done with WWE.
Yeah. The rumor, or I don't even know if it's rumors, it might be more than rumors at this point, but I believe he is headed back to UFC is the idea. So,
okay.
But yeah, I hope he's going to be done. Not that I don't like him sort of, but it's stale at this point. Like the idea that he's so above everybody else that he can show up to Raw like once every 5 weeks and wrestle a match at once every 4 pay-per-views and still be the champ. It's so, to me it's so boring. I don't think he's boring. I mean, like he shows up in a ring and starts just like destroying people and it's cool. But when they've been doing that gimmick for a year and a half and have the belt on him and you don't even see him, you get it. I mean, the Brock is great in a lot of ways, but I'm over it at this point, especially the way he's been used or in his enthusiasm about how often he wants to wrestle and stuff. It's like, okay, that prima donna thing works for a while, but at this point, like, see you later is how I feel.
Yeah. And I like that, like, that was kind of the consensus from like the WWE universe, but then like, I like that they've also brought it into like the story. I like that, Roman has actually been calling him out on it. And, Roman has traditionally been a tough dude to get over, with the fans. And, especially in, recent months. But I feel like, this has been a good angle, and I think it has kind of gotten Roman over a bit. But we'll see.
Yeah.
All right. So next one, the dream match: AJ Styles versus Shinsuke Nakamura. I just hope it happens.
Yeah.
This is the one I'm like so worried about because of AJ Styles' injury. Yeah, I know, like I read an interview with Triple H a week or two ago, and he's like, yeah, there's a plan B and a plan C if AJ doesn't get cleared. but I want this match.
Yeah, yeah, I think he'll be there. I think it'll happen. I hope the quality of the match is what it should be.
Mm,
Based on injury and stuff. And then I think Nakamura. I don't know. I guess it's hard to say. I think maybe Nakamura is going to win. And I like the idea of Nakamura as WWE champion, but
mhm.
I don't know. Part of me also thinks, I feel weird saying this, but part of me also thinks like I don't know that he's totally ready yet either. Just in terms of like the in ring, not even in ring, but just I don't know. I don't know. AJ is in a different place, I think, than Nakamura in terms of like um, his performance and just being the guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you can't keep the belt on him forever. And I'd love to see a Nakamura title run and sort of see how that goes and stuff. So
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah, I would. I think the stuff they've been doing on SmackDown has been really great. Like, I think there's already really great chemistry between the two, just in
Mhm.
like their promos and like the stuff that's been happening in the ring with them. I think it's gonna be awesome. I hope that I hope AJ is at 100% and can like give the match that everyone involved deserves.
Yeah.
Um,
And if it's like a total showstopper and Nakamura wins and he puts on like a huge match and it's just like really great, then I think that'll position him for a like a good title run and stuff. Like,
yeah,
so that would be cool.
yeah, I could see it go either way. I'm fine with it going either way.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I just want a good match with both of them at 100%. So,
Yeah.
um, next, The Miz versus Seth Rollins versus Finn Balor. Um, this has been an interesting one
Yeah.
leading up to it. I think, I think there's been they've been throwing some swerves in here. I think some of the stuff happening on like Miz TV has been pretty solid, pretty interesting. Um, I don't really know how this is going to shake out, honestly. I think it's going to end with Seth Rollins as the Intercontinental Champion. I think that makes sense. Um, but there's probably a few different ways it could go. There's a lot of like outside factors in
Mhm.
in this one as
Anderson and
well.
Gallows. Uh-huh.
Yeah, the Miztourage.
Yeah. I don't
Um,
see it. I don't see the belt sticking with new Daddy Miz necessarily. Like
mm,
I think he might want to take some time and he's had that Intercontinental belt for a while now. I'd like to see Finn Balor with some gold around his waist for
mm,
once.
yeah,
And still, not bitter's not the right word, but like with him winning that Universal Championship and then losing it immediately, not losing it, but not being able to wrestle and never
yeah.
really getting his time with the belt. Like I want to see him, um, you know, having some major success like this. So I think it would be good to see a belt on him. Seth Rollins is obviously one of the best superstars in the company, so it'd be great to see
Mhm.
him with the belt too. So either way, yeah, I'm fine. But I doubt that it's going to stay on the Miz.
Yeah.
But I certainly do love the Miz, so that'd be okay also.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like it's been it's like I wasn't expecting this three-way feud to be as interesting as it has been. But they keep throwing swerves like last week on Raw when I thought that Bo Dallas was turning on the Miz and it was all a clever ruse. Um, and
Yeah.
yeah, I think
Well,
it's been like way more fun than I thought it would be, and I think I think this is probably going to be a good match. Um, I I could yeah, now that you mention it, like it would be cool to see Finn Balor win it. Um, but like I hope that like yeah, it will probably be Rollins or Balor winning it. Like you said, Miz just had a they just had a baby, and I think whatever happens in this match, I think it will probably lead to Seth versus Finn at the next pay-per-view.
Yeah, or at SummerSlam. That'd be a big SummerSlam match too.
Oh yeah.
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 Who knows?
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Next one. This was to me the least interesting match until the fourth man got added. So Randy Orton versus Bobby Roode versus Jinder Mahal. And then as we saw on SmackDown last week, also
Rusev Day.
Yes. I think it's and this is for the United States Championship. It's a fatal four-way. It's I think it's time for Rusev to have a belt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it'd be interesting. Rusev had a good run with the United States Championship as a big time heel. But now he's like, I don't know where he is in terms of his heel face status, but he's in a different place.
He's a heel, but like he's very much a face.
Yeah, so it'd be interesting to see like him, because he's the Bulgarian brute, you know what I mean? And it's Rusev Day, and so like the United States Championship is the patriotic belt, so I don't know how do you, like, it'd be interesting to see what would they do with Rusev as United States champion if he's not like in like hard heel mode, because normally he'd be like spitting on the flag, not literally spitting on the flag, but you know what I mean, like he'd be oh, you awful Americans and your hot dogs and your like which is great when he does that stuff, but I don't know that I see him doing that where he's at right now as a character. So now, would Jinder Mahal be great at that? Absolutely. I'm a big Jinder guy too, so I don't know. It'd be interesting to see what happens in that one, but it should be a fun match.
Next one, probably the most emotionally charged match of the pay-per-view: Alexa Bliss versus Nia Jax.
Gotta be Nia. It's gonna be good. She's gonna give Alexa Bliss, one of my favorite wrestlers in the company. I love Alexa Bliss. She's so good. She's such a great heel. She's gonna get just absolutely destroyed by Nia Jax. It's gonna be great.
I feel like we as a nation need Nia Jax to just pummel Alexa Bliss. We just need like a really good bully takedown at WrestleMania,
and more opportunities to hear that theme song too. I love that theme song. Her song. I'm not like most girls. That's a good theme.
No, they have done such a good job with that feud, building it up, and I'm ready for it. Another chance at the secret best match of WrestleMania: Charlotte Flair versus Asuka.
Dude, that match is going to be fantastic. It's going to be fantastic. I assume Asuka's going to win, but then again, break the streak at Mania against the Queen Charlotte Flair. That works for me too. So we'll see.
Like in this one, like it's so interesting. Like however this match ends, hopefully it doesn't end in like a dumb way.
Oh, that'd be awful.
Like, I really hope it's not like Carmella running out something.
Well, now that you say that though, she's got to cash in very soon. So it could be the Raw after Mania. Maybe she'll do it. I don't know, but she's got to cash in soon.
Like it's interesting because like obviously Asuka is a Raw superstar. Charlotte Flair is a SmackDown superstar. It's going for the SmackDown Women's Championship. Like, what happens if Asuka wins? Does she move?
She'll change brands.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would expect to see some roster change ups after Mania anyway. So, but I think she would change. Brands.
I have a theory about that for one of the later matches here.
Okay.
I think either way this match goes, as long as it gets, as long as the match gets its due. Like my only concern, my only worry is that like there's going to be a run in or something, and we won't really get the match Like that's my concern. But if they get to just go all out, and I'm happy with either result. Like obviously, like I'm a huge Asuka fan. You know, she's my favorite favorite women's wrestler. But you know, nothing but respect for Charlotte Flair as well. And you know, if anyone's going to break the streak, let it be Charlotte at WrestleMania.
Yeah, they need to break it soon too, because it's getting a little bit like predictable, or just like kind of, I don't know. Like I was talking, my wife and I were talking yesterday over breakfast about the mixed tag thing, and how like it's just like so much less interesting than it would be because Asuka's involved, and you know Asuka's not going to lose because she never loses. So like until she loses stuff or like breaks the streak,
the Miz could lose.
No, I don't think they will.
Yeah.
I honestly don't. Like it's like the same thing with the Royal Rumble. Like, you know, because of her streak, she was going to win the Royal Rumble. Like she just was. Like they're not going to have her lose anything until that streak is broken. So I'd like to see her win the belt at Mania, but I'd also like to see that streak broken sometime soon, you know? So
yeah.
But anyway.
All right. So the next one, The Bar, Cesaro and Sheamus versus Braun Strowman and TBD.
If it ends up being James Ellsworth, then it's like secretly the best match of Mania. So
God, it's not going to be James Ellsworth.
Why not?
Because he's wrestling for another promotion now.
Yeah, no, he's not wrestling for it. He took a booking for a show. It's not a big deal. And also, like last year, when the Hardys were rumored to come back, they wrestled a show the same weekend of Mania. And the fact that he's like, I mean, obviously all these indie promotions and stuff do shows like in the town like of Mania that weekend and stuff, because like, you know, all the biggest wrestling fans are there that weekend. But yeah, no, that totally does not preclude him, especially because I don't think he'd be like coming back to WWE. I think it would just be like a one-off type thing, and it would get a huge pop. And
why James Ellsworth?
What do you mean, why James Ellsworth? Like why do I want him?
Yeah.
Because it'd be hilarious, because Braun, like the whole point is like Braun was going to just wrestle against a tag team by himself because he's the monster among men. And I don't know if you were watching at the time or if you remember this or not, but like James Ellsworth made his debut because it was during the like series of weeks where on TV tapings, like they would have Braun go up against a different jobber every week and immediately destroy him. And James Ellsworth was like the one where people like just loved him. And like, it wasn't planned that he was going to like come into the company. It was just like he was so funny and just so good as like in that jobber role getting destroyed by Braun that like people demanded basically like, we need more of this Ellsworth character. Like, who is this fellow with no chin? Like, bring him back. So then he ended up like, you know, and so anyway, his introduction into WWE was all tied up with Strowman. Oh, okay. So yeah.
Okay. Well, that makes sense. Great.
And I think there are rumors. And it's not like just me coming up with this. I think there are rumors that it could be Ellsworth. So I don't know. You know, they got to let me down soon if it's not going to be Ellsworth, because I can't imagine like what could be as good. What like current roster, you know, wrestler. And don't build it up for weeks and weeks and weeks. Like, who's Braun's partner going to be, just so they can be like, oh, it's Bo Dallas. Like, well, like, you know what I mean? Like, or whoever it's going to be. Well, it won't be Bo Dallas, but you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. Like they need it to be something ridiculous.
It's got to be someone ridiculous. Like it's yeah.
And you can't like Braun is a beast. You can't have like another competent. I mean, you can, but like the better the wrestler is that he's teamed with, the less interesting it is.
Yeah.
So who's about the worst possible wrestler that they, unless you're going to bring Enzo Amore back. Yeah, Kurt Hawkins. Yeah. So you know what I mean? Like, and they're not bringing Enzo back, and they shouldn't. But I'm just saying, like, like that would be the right person for that job if he was still in the company, you know?
Yeah.
And an equivalent to that, like, gets nothing done in the ring and is not in any way intimidating, is James Ellsworth. It'd be perfect.
Okay. Yeah. I think you've sold me on this now.
All right. Yeah.
Okay. Next match, the Usos versus the New Day versus the Bludgeon Brothers for the SmackDown Tag Team Championship.
Probably the Bludgeon Brothers.
Yeah.
So that's cool. I mean, the Usos and and New Day have both, had a lot of title time. So I would think it's gonna be the Bludgeon Brothers. What do you think, Oos?
Yeah, Oos. I think Bludgeon Brothers, like, I think it's something like Lindsay and I were talking about. Like, I feel like there's right now in WWE, I feel like there's kind of there's not a lot of well, maybe there are. Like, I don't know. Yeah. I like the idea of there being like more heel champions.
Mm.
That everyone's like, the David and Goliath situation, where I think it would be super appropriate for for the Bludgeon Brothers to have the titles and be like this, like, who is ever going to take these titles from them kind of thing. Um, I would like to see that, and then maybe bring up like a new tag team on SmackDown, because I feel like um, there had it. I feel like the Bludgeon Brothers are probably like the freshest thing happening in like the SmackDown tag division. So I feel like it's kind of like them becoming champions could kind of like start like a new era, I guess. Um, I don't know. I think it would be interesting and fresh, and there could be more of like a tag team shakeup. Like, the Usos have had an amazing run, and they've pretty much beat everyone. So I don't really know like how interesting it would be for them to continue to be tag team champions at this point.
Yeah, I think we're gonna see definitely title change here. So
Yeah. All right. So, couple more matches here. Kurt Angle and Ronda Rousey versus Triple H and Stephanie McMahon. We actually haven't talked about this stuff at all. Like,
well,
what are even your thoughts on
it's got to be
this?
Rousey. I mean, it's her debut match, and they've, I'm sure, spent a ton of money on her and want, I mean, it's got to be her. They're not trying to build Stephanie McMahon's wrestling career. So, I mean, it's got to be Ronda Rousey. I just hope it's a really fun match. I think it should be, watching Ronda Rousey like beat the crap out of Stephanie McMahon is going to be really good.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm there for, is like the Rousey Stephanie stuff. I mean, people love Kurt Angle, and he's one of the best wrestlers of all time, and Triple H is great. So, I mean, that should be good too. But, yeah, I'm most excited, obviously, for Ronda Rousey, Stephanie McMahon, and I think it should be really fun.
Yeah. I'm excited for Triple H's intro. How he comes to the ring.
Yeah.
He has had some pretty great WrestleMania entrances. Yeah, I think like my biggest concern here is I hope the match just works. It's it's a tough thing for someone like Ronda Rousey, making her like proper in-ring debut at WrestleMania, and the biggest stage of them all. And I think like there's going to probably be some jitters, some just not being like totally in practice. It's going to be some first match stuff. And
well, I think that's definitely why they're protecting her a little bit with the tag team thing. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
she can kind of get her debut in without really having to like hold her own for the whole match and kind of carry the match necessarily. So I'm for sure. I mean, definitely that's got to be part of it, I think. But
yeah, definitely. And then whatever the outcome, however this goes, like I do hope that like she's after Mania, that she's just like in the women's division and just in there wrestling, and like it doesn't become like a Brock Lesnar situation where she just shows up every once in a while or comes out every other week to do like a promo. Like, I hope that she's like actually like really in it, which she says she is. But yeah, because I want to see, like, I just want to see her like facing off with like so many women in the women's division.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be a Lesnar scenario, but I don't think it'll be a total worker like constantly wrestling type thing either.
Yeah,
somewhere in between. But well, way closer to seeing her every week than like a Brock Lesnar type situation.
Yeah.
I will sour on that very quickly if they try to do that with her. But
Mm-hmm.
you know, I don't think she's going to be doing house shows, and I don't think she's going to like have a match
Sure.
every week on Raw. But I think, you know, she'll be around for sure. So, but you know, it does give it a little bit of a layer of mystique too if she's not wrestling every week, like week in and week out, you know. But yeah, you don't want it to feel like she's a part timer who's never around.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Um. Okay, and then last match, Daniel Bryan and Shane McMahon versus Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. And if Owens and Zayn, obviously recently fired from SmackDown, and if they win this match in Daniel Bryan's return to the ring, they will be rehired.
Mm-hmm. I'm just really excited to see Daniel Bryan wrestle again.
Yep.
I think obviously possibility of shenanigans is high of some kind, just because of the stipulation. So you know, I could see like I don't know, you'd like to see Daniel Bryan win his first match back, but at the same time, you know, they've got to get creative if that happens because obviously they're not firing Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. So, you know, but they can do all kinds of things like storyline wise to make that work. So I don't know what we'll see, but I could definitely see some kind of like, you know, shenanigans ending up in a, you know, weird finish, so that they can keep them in the company. But then also, you know, your face, Daniel Bryan doesn't, you know, just get like he's not going to get pinned clean or anything. You know what I mean? Obviously Shane can get pinned, but even that, I think like if they lose, it will be because of some kind of, unexpected. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I think there is still a concern about if Shane's going to be ready for this match. Because he's been dealing with some health stuff. So hopefully that still happens. Shane McMahon always puts on a show at big events. Dangerously so, typically.
Yeah.
So I hope he's feeling good for whatever craziness he's going to do.
I think that'll be toned down though this time because of the injuries, and then also like you know, there's no cage to jump off of or anything. Like he'll probably do a table spot or you know his coast to coast thing or something, and take a few big bumps or whatever. But I wouldn't think it'd be too crazy, especially with 3 other competitors in the ring. You know, but
yeah, that's true. I was also thinking that that a possibility would be like Daniel Bryan winning clean, and probably pinning Kevin Owens, and then you know, them being fired from SmackDown, but then showing up over at Raw.
Oh yeah, absolutely, that could happen for sure.
And I think that might be the way to go, because like, I mean, maybe it's like obviously like Shane, like they played it up so well, like the feud between Shane and Kevin and Sami. But like that's not going to be solved in this match. And I don't know if I want another 6 months of that angle. Like, so I think maybe they should just go over to Raw.
Yeah, I agree.
And do stuff there.
Yeah, that could be cool.
Yeah. And maybe they'll end up feuding, and you know, or maybe they'll, you know, team up on other people over at Raw and mess everything up there, which I think would be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, another thing to bring up too, and not that I want to spend a bunch of time talking about it now or anything, but I would think that we're going to see some general manager like shake up stuff happening too.
Oh yeah.
I don't really expect Kurt Angle to stay around too much longer in that role necessarily, and then Daniel Bryan probably definitely not, considering he's going to be back, you know, wrestling. So there'll be some changes happening in those areas too, I think, but not necessarily like right away, but sometime soon.
Yeah.
You said last match though, but you are wrong, Old Sport. It's not the last match. We have not talked about the dead man versus the face that runs the place, Undertaker versus John Cena. That match is absolutely happening at WrestleMania, and it's going to be a big one. So we'll see. I think probably goes to Taker. Previously, I'd been thinking it will be a Cena win there, but I think probably it's going to go to Taker. But either way, it's gonna be cool.
So do you think Taker will respond on Raw this
Yes, I
week?
think we'll see Undertaker on Raw on Monday night. And the match is for sure, definitely happening. So yeah. There's no way
Okay.
they'd be building it up like this if it wasn't going to happen. I mean, that would be...
I kind of love the idea of it not happening though.
No, get out of here. It's happening.
Like,
I could have probably told you at this time last year that the match was... Well, no, not this time last year, but like August of last year, I could have told you, like, the rumors are strong for Undertaker John Cena at next year's WrestleMania. It is happening. But yeah, should be good.
Yeah. It would be fascinating if it didn't happen though. I would love to see where they went with that.
Yeah. Okay. I think it would be yeah. Yeah. There would be a lot of anger and frustration, including from me. So I don't think that's going to happen. But yeah,
we'll see. I don't know. How are you feeling about this WrestleMania card going into it?
I think last year's WrestleMania was potentially the best WrestleMania of all time, and this one seems like it could go toe to toe with last year's WrestleMania. So yeah, it's amazing. Like almost every match is really exciting, and yeah, there's possibilities for some big stuff. I hope for at least a few like a surprise or two. Like the Hardy Boys showing up last year was a great surprise, and it's always fun to have those kinds of things at Royal Rumbles and at WrestleMania. So maybe some NXT call ups or
Adam Cole, baby.
Yeah, just some surprising stuff like that. So hopefully we'll have that kind, a little bit of that kind of stuff too. But no, I think it's going to be really incredible. I can't wait.
Cool.
Yep.
All right. I also think, speaking of NXT, TakeOver is going to be pretty awesome as well.
No spoilers for this week's NXT though. I haven't watched it yet.
I haven't watched it either.
Oh, okay.
Good. Yeah.
See what happens with Johnny Wrestling.
Oh man.
Which, speaking of call-ups, I don't know what's going to happen with Johnny Wrestling, but you got to figure if he's not contracted with NXT anymore, let's see him on the main roster.
Maybe. I think he still has some scores to settle in NXT, though.
Yeah, but those scores could be settled on Saturday night, couldn't they?
Not all of them.
Oh, okay.
I think he. Well, okay, we got to stop.
All right, okay.
I have thoughts about this, but we really got to stop. This has been going on for a while.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this wrestling episode.
Oh, nobody's listening at this point.
No, for the very small cross section of our listeners who also watch.
I can think of two people who might be listening right now, and that's it. Kevin and Ben, maybe. And even they might be like, these guys don't know wrestling. What do they do? They don't want to listen to these guys.
Oh man, yeah. So, well, anyways, yeah. Let's just finish this. NintendoFunClubPodcast.com. Subscribe, smash that like button, whatever. I'm on Twitter at Brawn Dwarf, BRAWNDWARF.
I'm on Twitter at Arcade Ghost.
Cool. Well, thanks a ton for tuning in, and John, send us off with a great wrestling quote.
WrestleMania is going to be incredible, and that's the bottom line. That was the best I could come up with in the